Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to show you my personal AI infrastructure. This is everything that I've built over the last 6 months or so to run AI at home, to use it for development, research, building, just a whole bunch of things that I am using it for right now in my personal life. A lot of it is exploration, a lot of it is learning, and I wanted to show you essentially how I tie everything together with my subscriptions as well to have like a unified AI system that helps me in my day-to-day life. Now, to start, we need to talk a bit about hardware and the different hardware requirements and levels that you have. So over the last year or so, open weight models have just exploded in popularity. Some of this is due to PewDiePie, some of this is due to the technology being available. Obviously, it's in the news all the time, and this is making it likely that people will run into this technology and get interested in using it. So for me, the moment where I really wanted to buy this technology was during the GLM 4.5 releases. I started using them via the subscription plan, and I found them to be like excellent. They would do just everything that Claude would do. It cut down my subscription price in half to Claude, and I only had to pay $3 a month for it. It worked with Claude Code, and I started to think about these are the possibilities, right? I can run this at home. Some of these models are generally and relatively small, so GLM 4.5 Air specifically is the one that I was really interested in running at home because it was 106 billion parameters, cut that in half. So you can run this on 64 to 96 gigabytes of RAM. I was considering purchasing a Mac M3 Ultra. I'm going to link a blog post in the description about all this, and you can go over the economics and all that. But I ended up going with 3090s. I bought 8 3090s over 2 months. So first I bought 4, and then I bought 6, so 4, and then 2 more, and then 2 more. So a total of 8 over 2 to 3 months, give or take. The thing cost me $10,000. And I bought 512 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. This was before the RAM spike. And it turned out well for me, right? So this has not only maintained its value, it's actually grown in value if I sell it for parts. But this gives me 192 gigabytes of VRAM and 512 gigabytes of RAM. But you can see it's a pain in the ass. It's huge, it's very noisy, it creates heat, and there's a lot of cables and cleaning involved, and it's just not easy to set up. So for 90% of people, I would recommend just sticking with the Mac and making use of that. Now, after I purchased this, my next goal was how do I run this thing at home? How do I make use of this technology, right? So I started to look into applications that let me use local models that I'm running on LM Studio to start, right? I started on my MacBook, and when I bought my GPUs, I started on LM Studio. What I didn't like is the speed. It was just so slow. So I started using VLM. And VLM is a inferencing engine. It lets you load the models into the GPU. It handles all of the logistics of running a model, and it is 6 times faster prefill. So this is prompt processing, the model reading your prompt, and 2 to 3 times faster at the generation step. So this is when the model is actually creating the next tokens, the next words, etc. I moved on to VLM, but there was no technology that would let you handle this, right? All of it had to be built from scratch. There are some things that let you, you can have a web app, what was it called? Cherry Studio and Chatbox, and they're excellent, and they work with custom providers, but you needed to have a custom provider. And so there was just a lot of development that needed to happen for me to use this in my day-to-day life. Now, you could see here that this was all built with the inspiration of LM Studio, of course. You could see my GPUs. I built this from scratch with AI and even using some of these local models to help. On the right, you have recipes. So this is my approach is when you're running local models, you need to have these configurations. How much context are you giving it? How much compression are you using? What are the different tool call things that you're setting up for it, right? All of that needs to be configured, and that is what we call a recipe. I call it a recipe. And so I used to have to basically copy paste these all over the place and save them and hope I don't lose them. But now I have a system where I can just look for a recipe. So I can look for Quen and I can get like the one that's running, or I can create a new recipe and it takes me over to the recipes panel and I can make a new one. And you could see here, I will go over my models. I also forward the logs so I could see what's going on. And this works. It has a mobile app, it has a desktop app, it has a website. This is my own personal AI infrastructure. And I have like keeping track of costs per model and the power usage and like the max speeds and the ability to benchmark it, stop it, see how many tokens are in and out in like a session. So basically all this to say that I built all this infrastructure because it didn't exist. Now we have it, it's open source, you can use it if you're interested in this kind of thing. Going over to like how to use this, so you need to find models, right? You need to find models that you can run on your hardware. I think a good level, if you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, then you are pretty much set. You can run GLM 4.7 Flash, which is an excellent model. You can see it here. Let's go search GLM 4.7 Flash. And we have it right here. And you can see here that this is 30 gigabytes of, so 30 billion parameters. So quantized to 4 bits, it's 16 gigabytes. Full context, 10 gigabytes, and you have 6 gigabytes of RAM left. And this is a great coding model. I've used it to code. I've used it to run agents and bots, and it works excellent. It doesn't have that much like world knowledge, so it doesn't know information, but it's great at like the stuff that it does, which is coding and like tool calls. Once you find a model that you like, you need to install it. Once you install it, you need to go to the recipes section. I'm not just talking about this, but like in general, if you want to run your own AI infrastructure, I would recommend LM Studio to start, and then you can think about other things when you get more experience. Now going over to GLM 4.7 Flash AWQ 8-bit, I feel like I was sure that I used a non 8-bit one. So GLM 4.7 Flash, and we will pick this one. Yes, and so you can see here that I can control like how much context the model has, like all of these different paths, resources, like how many GPUs do I give it, performance, like this is all stuff that you can configure on your own time, right? And you'll have to do this in any one of the systems that you would be using. You have the recipe, you save the recipe, and then you can click to run this recipe. It works the same in LM Studio. Now, once you have a model, like I'm currently running Quen 3.5 212B, you can then chat with it. So we can open the last chat that I have here, and you can see this is the chat that I have. Now, the model, I asked it to describe to me a repository of a compression algorithm, and it came back to me with like, it installed the files to the computer. You can see here the tool calls that it was doing. Basically, it's like installing, LSing, doing all this stuff that an agent would do. This is similar to the Kimi or the ChatGPT website. That was my inspiration for this. And you can see here, it explained to me everything visually. So I've been using these models a lot for education because I find them to be relatively accurate. This is pretty much the same thing that Opus would return to me, maybe with a little less, pizzazz. But I have all of these chats, and I'm always testing, so a lot of the chats are going to be messy, but you can see here that it just comes back to me and it tells me what models are doing what, and I can ask it any question that I want. This is me testing. And so you can see here, this is GLM 4.7. It has issues with outputting certain types of tokens. Anyway, these are the things that you're going to run into every day. Now, I track my usage because I want to know how many requests am I making? Of those requests, how many are succeeding? And how many tokens have I spent? And what is the cost? And what are the sessions? And you can see here, this is the basic daily usage chart that I have. I have had an explosion with this specific model, the Quen 3.5 212B. It is really good. And you can see here, I've made 633 requests to it, 225 million tokens, and it is relatively fast. I can batch 5 sessions at the same time and get 310 tokens a second. That so good. This feels like a frontier level technology to me. Obviously, there's flaws with everything. I want to go into the configs. I'm going to change this for a second and we'll go back. So, and we can talk about the configs. Okay, there you go. So configs here, This is like the underlying components that we have running. So we have VLLM and SGLang. We have a controller that tells like the machine when to remove a model, when to load a model, etc. We have a front end, we have a database, we have like LLM, and we have like this system here, and you can see like these are all of the dependencies that I'm running and all of the things that I'm supporting. And this helps me understand what's going on. Now, I am working on a few things like this is distributed inference, so you can have like two people on two different machines sharing their computers, and you can split a much larger model onto their machines, and one runs half, the other runs half, and you can use it together. But this is nowhere near done. And this is the beginning of like what I needed to build. So I built this, and once I built this, the next step is like, how do we make use of it, right? Like, how do we use those models to do things that are impressive and important? Launch the extension with Agent Browser and interact with the side panel. You could do that. And so we are in Droid right now. This is also part of my personal AI infrastructure. Droid is one of the best, most used agent or like AI tools that I have. This is the desktop app, but I also use the front end app. And you can see here it's controlling my browser and using it to test the UI that it's building and the things that it's doing. But Droid is a agent harness similar to Claude Code and Codex. It is my favorite right now. My second favorite is Codex. So I use those two pretty much exclusively. Sometimes I'll use Claude Code, sometimes I'll use Open Code. I think they're very good. I have nothing bad to say about them. The reason I'm picking this one specifically to be my like daily driver is because the outcomes in terms of like the model behavior tends to be the best here. They force it to create force it to create rules. They like not rules, but plans and task lists, and like it is very structured way of working with these LLMs. And so you could see here that it's controlling my browser. It's just like going to keep popping this up and doing things. I'm going to move it to my other screen so that it doesn't keep bothering us, and we can let that go. Now we were talking about like the hosting of the models, right? Let me open the VLM Studio here, and we were talking about the hosting of the model. So now we have all these AIs like loaded. What do we do with them? So I could do something like this, and I can do model, and you can see here these are all of the AIs that I'm running at home. Home Lab is the name that I gave the provider. It's my VLM Studio provider, right? My backend GPUs, and I can run GLM 4.7 or Flash or 4.6V, Minimax M2.5. This is probably the best model that we have. This one and currently Qwen 3.5 212B, which is just a prune of the larger variant. So it's a compression of the larger variant. These are the best two, and I think these have reached parity with frontier models. Like we're talking about Sonnet or maybe Haiku, or maybe like, you know, the medium effort GPT models. These models get there, they do. And especially at like in distribution tasks. So you can think about like data analysis, web scraping, open source like repositories, which I work in open source. So it's like they perform really well because they've seen that data like millions of times, well under the 300 limit. Let's see what it's saying here. Okay, that's good. So what I'm going to do is load up the skill, and I'm going to pick the model that we currently have running. I want you to review this and tell me what you think about the writing style. So we're going to just see it run. So now I've made a request to Home Lab. I've made a request for this specific model, Qwen 3.5 plus 212B, and you can see my GPU is just filled up. So I just transferred it over, right? Like this made a call from Droid to my backend. And the way I'm doing that is using something called a Vibe CLI. So Vibe CLI is, I would say, very important if you're trying to run local LLMs. It lets you basically connect all of your AI subscriptions, all of your local models, all of your custom providers in one place and use them essentially in one place. And then you can plug it into Droid, to Open Code, to Claude Code, right? All of this is possible. And we can see that the model is now responding and it is reading code and it'll start. Like this is running on my local infrastructure, right? And it is good enough. I'm gonna open another one and I will have it work basically 2 sessions at a time. We're gonna pull up the same model so we could see here. it would be Qwen 3.5 to 12b. And another part of my personal AI infrastructure is Super Whisper. So Super Whisper lets you create a hotkey. So my hotkey is Control Option. When I hit Control Option, I can speak, and then it'll take my voice and create like sentences and send it over to an AI. The AI would structure it and then give me text that I can copy. So we're going to demonstrate this right now. Hello, I need you to dig into this repo and create a visual explainer for me in HTML and open it in my default browser based on the overall architecture, the high-level architecture of how this repository works, the different decisions that we've made, what are some hot spots and cold spots, complexities, and what should we do with it next. So I have put this in, and you can see it automatically put, and that saves me a lot of time. I'm going to say one more thing. Use the visual design or visual explainer skill, please. And we hit that, and we get the model, and it is doing its thing. So now we have one running here, and it came back with its response. So it's saying the writing style assessment, direct conversational voice, read like someone talking to you, not writing at you, sentences like this is not a metaphor, okay, etc., etc. So you can see it is actually doing things, right? And immediately when I ran it here, I get it in my desktop app, which is really great. So this is like how I'm using it for code. Now, what kind of tasks am I using it for? So if we go here, we see this is my work/X. So I installed all of my private data, like all of my data from Twitter. They let you install it in like 2 buttons. You click 2 buttons, you get your data, you install it. I open it, like I unzip the folder into this directory, and then I have all of my writing. I turned it into a RAG, and I tell the model like, okay, get me the post. Let me go back to the local model. Get me the post about, let's see, Cerebrus Reap with the most likes. And so now I can have a conversation with my data. And you can imagine I can do this with Twitter posts. I can do this with code. I can do this with my financial documents. Literally anything in my life I can use this method for, and it'll work really, really well. And we can go back and look at what's happening here. And so you can see this is the agentic loop, right? It's running, it's reading, it's listing directories, it's trying to understand what's going on. I've used this for coding. It's excellent. There's nothing that I can say about it that like is negative. Maybe the model is like a little bit like dumber than, let's say, Opus or GPT. It is definitely dumber than them in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean it's not useful, right? Because we were using Sonnet 3.5 the whole time. Now, another piece of architecture, or work that I have, so I'm going to open, oh, that was strange. We're going to open this, and we're going to load this, and we have another part of my, basically this is like part of my AI infrastructure, right? I love automating browser use because I think that most of my work happens in the browser. And we can take a demo of that, and I will ask the model, please deep research 0xSERO and tell me what they do and who they are and all of the different stuff that you could find. And so another thing that I do to get good results to make these things useful is basically automating things that I typically wouldn't be able to automate. Now, this is really ugly, and I hate the fact that it added this in because I'm letting it code on my stuff, and you can see that it added some like trash UI elements without really thinking about it. We're going to take a screenshot, and I will show it to, I guess this is for debugging right now. But you can see now I'm not controlling the browser anymore. This is Kimmy controlling the browser, but I've also tried it with the model that we have running. I just want it to be a little bit faster so you guys don't have to struggle through a lot of it. But you can see the model is reading through my Twitter posts. It's like, it's looking through the files, and then it's finding the tweets, and it is doing the agentic loop. And right here, it is like looking through the front end. It's checking like markdown files. It's thinking. It is everything that you need it to be. This is just like, these are the things that I'm doing with these models. The tools, I'm going to say them again. Droid right now Vibe CLI to group all my subscriptions, all my providers in one place, VLM Studio to host and run my local models, Parchi to automate browser actions, Droid for coding, and Super Whisper for communications. Now, we have a bunch of tools, so it's doing its thing. I'm going to tell it not to do this, but I absolutely love this. We're going to go back to browser AI, and we're going to tell it to, okay, let's see here. This should not be in the chat. Like, I don't want to see this in the chat outputs. Can you please remove this? And this data should be only available if somebody's like really trying to look for it, or via the logs, like, you know, on our local machine. I don't want to see this in the chat. And we go back over here and we can see that it is still doing its thing, it's still doing its research, reading my posts and stuff. And this one is still making tool calls. This is, yeah, because it's trying to read a directory like it would have read a file. So there are issues, and we have like maybe 25 tool calls, of which 20% of them, they're not failed, but like the model is just doing the wrong thing. In here, we have the report coming out of the model telling us like who this person is. And the reason it's running a bit slower is because we're doing this like batching, right? We go back here and let's try to find the exit. And so we can see that it's running, it's still doing its thing, it's going to take its time. Another one is ready in the meantime. Now, I have used a bunch of other stuff, like we could go over and we can take a look. I use these skills a lot, like the visual explainer skill, I use it a lot. The front-end design, I use a lot. And I think that these are very important, especially getting like content out. So I use this for producing content. I only use it for producing drafts. I always rewrite like the whole thing manually. I don't want people to read like AI generated slop. Coding wise, I don't care. Code is code. And I use a lot of this to automate a lot of my life. Trust me, like there's so much stuff you can do with these local models. It is mind-numbingly incredible. And you don't need to buy anything to get started. If you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, you're good to go. Hopefully this video is helpful. This is basically everything that I am running, right? And this should give you an idea of like, if you're gonna spend $10,000, this is kind of what it's gonna look like. There's gonna be a lot of headaches, it's gonna be really difficult, but eventually it'll work out, and I think it's a skill worth pursuing. Thank you for your time.